Hi, my name is Grace and I'm a freshman at Washington University in St. Louis. In this lesson video, I'll be talking a lot about how important my community is to me and how I highlighted that on my application. It's very important when you're applying to colleges to show that you're a community-focused applicant. Colleges like this for two reasons. Firstly, everyone has a very unique community. No one person's community is like another, and so by highlighting your community, you're showing all the ways you are unique. Conversely, everyone knows what it's like to be part of a community, and so this will be an easily relatable experience for anyone reading your application. Colleges want to know that you're going to make their college community a better place. There's no better way to show them that you will than by showing that you care about your communities at home. So I'm going to talk about 4 things. Firstly, I'm going to talk about my involvement in my neighborhood. Secondly, I'm going to talk about my experiences over the summer that contributed to my community. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about experiences in my church. And fourthly, I'm going to talk about how I incorporated all 3 of those areas and put those experiences into my application, and how you guys can also decide what experiences should go in what parts of your application. So first, I want to talk about my neighborhood. So there are 3 things that stand out to me about how I was involved in my neighborhood community. I'm going to run through those for you guys and then talk about how I got those opportunities and how you guys can get similar ones. So probably my favorite thing I did in my neighborhood was I worked at a local food pantry, and the food pantry was very local, very small. So as I worked there, I got to know the staff really well and the director of the pantry. We did a lot of different things there, and that tends to be how it is at small nonprofits because they need everybody to do everything because they can never have enough help really. So you end up filling a lot of different jobs that you didn't even know existed. So a lot of the times I was responsible for unloading the truck and stocking up the shelves and making sure everything was organized. I also sometimes helped run the food pantry on days when clients would come in. So I ran the front desk and I helped them fill out little slips so that they could receive their food. One of my very favorite things about the job was a lot of the clients only spoke Spanish, so I got to practice a lot of my Spanish, which was really, really fun. And I discovered I didn't know as much as I thought I did. That experience was really helpful to me because I got to know the director of the food pantry really well and have a personal relationship with him. He later ended up writing one of my recommendation letters. I also feel like I learned a lot about how food pantries in general and food shortages work. And that was something I really hadn't known much about before. And so I didn't end up writing an essay about it, but it did inform my general knowledge about the world, which was really interesting. The second way that I was involved was I worked with the alderman's office and I made calls to senior citizens asking if they needed their driveways or sidewalks shoveled when it was snowing outside. That experience was really fun. I was one of the only teenagers doing that job. It was mostly retirees who had the time to be doing it. I got to know the alderman better because he was on each one of those calls, and so that was a cool relationship to have. I also got a lot of community service hours from that, and it was an easy job that I just had to call in to from anywhere. So I was able to do that literally from my bedroom. That was something that showed me the way the political side of volunteering or my neighborhood worked. And my third way I was involved was I worked at a local cafe. I worked for about 15 hours a week and I ran the cash register or I made food in the back. And I worked more during the summer at that job. When school was going on, I wasn't able to work there as much because I needed to focus on my studies. So some of the ways you guys can get involved in those opportunities, the number one thing I would recommend is reach out to your alderman. I'm really lucky because I have a great alderman. Not all aldermen are as good as him, but aldermen in general are great resources. Depending on what your interests are, you might have a political interest, and so getting directly involved with your alderman's office might be a good option for you getting involved in your community, helping them organize their political campaigns or other things to do with voter turnout. They do a lot with voting and local elections. Another way knowing the alderman is helpful is that you can learn about lots of different volunteer opportunities or events. You can also talk directly to the alderman if you think there's an event or volunteering that your neighborhood should be participating in. A lot of aldermen are very receptive to new ideas and would love to put something together with you. I actually ended up reaching out to my alderman and asking him to help me organize a protest, and he was very willing to do so. Aldermen are very accessible politicians that you can contact, and they really are great resources that you should definitely take advantage of. Another thing you can do is try to become involved with nonprofits in your area. Nonprofits always need more help, so they would definitely be willing to include you as a volunteer. And you can get all sorts of cool opportunities that way that you might not be able to get otherwise, and build close relationships, like the relationship I built with the leader of the food pantry. So some examples of nonprofits would be not-for-profit thrift stores, food pantries, women's clinics, or homeless shelters. And there's a lot more. You can do a simple Google search in your area to find those. The third way that I think is a really great way to get involved, which I did, is to obtain a job in your area at a local business or somewhere that many people in your neighborhood or area patron. If you don't have time to volunteer or you really need to be making money, that's a great way to show that you're involved in your community without having to sacrifice that time. Local businesses are important to the community, and you can easily put a spin on your job on that application that makes you look like a community-focused applicant because the community needs people like you working those jobs. So secondly, I'm going to talk about some things I did over the summer. So summer experiences are very important for a college application, as you probably already know. This is because you have so much free time over the summer. And so you want to show colleges that you're using all that free time that you have for something that you're passionate about and for something productive. Not everybody has time to do summer experiences over the summer, but if you do have time, I would really encourage you to do so. And if you don't have time, try to find smaller things that you can do. So one of my very favorite summer experiences that I had was being a teacher's assistant at the Nettie Bailey Student Achievement Program. As a teacher's assistant, I helped run a 4th grade classroom. I helped the teacher plan lessons. I led the kids in games and took them on field trips. And whenever the teacher wasn't there, I actually ended up teaching the classroom. This was one of the most impactful experiences I've ever had in my whole life. It's actually what compelled me to declare a major in educational studies. And that's another reason why summer experiences can be so important to you. More than just going on your college application, they can help you figure out what you're actually passionate about and what you're meant to be doing. The way that I found that experience was actually through working at the food pantry. Another great thing about working with nonprofits is that they're often very connected to each other. And so Ross, who was the director of the food pantry and the person I had a great relationship with, he directed me to that job because he had a relationship with that nonprofit who ran it. I knew that I wanted to do something with children, and I knew I wanted to do something that was very time consuming that summer. And so by having those criteria to guide my search for a summer activity, that really helped me narrow it down. So before you start looking for experiences, you should have certain criteria for yourself or a certain area that you want to focus in. The second summer experience that was very impactful to me was I was a participant at the Bridge Builders Summer Camp. So Bridge Builders, you do a lot of volunteering in this specific neighborhood in Chicago, and you learn about that neighborhood's history. I found that experience through my church because my church youth group was going to that camp, and so I decided to join them. I really liked it and was able to make relationships with some of the people who ran it. It was a really small program, and so there weren't many people who were attending it. One of the great things with being involved in summer programs that are smaller are that you're able to form more substantial relationships with the people who run them. I actually have been asked back to be a counselor at that same summer camp next summer because I formed that relationship. And those sort of things are much more likely to happen to you if you choose community-based smaller summer experiences in which you're able to actually build relationships. If you choose experiences that tons and tons of kids go to, they may be equally impactful to you, which is so great, but they're not going to be able to provide those quality relationships like small experiences can. The third thing I want to talk about is my involvement in my church community. So I was very involved in my church community even as a kid because my parents were involved in the church. They used to volunteer me for tons of things, and as a kid I hated it. But as I got older, I came to appreciate it and started to volunteer myself more for things. I ended up volunteering as a sound engineer after my mom suggested me for the job. I decided to go just to appease her, but when I got there, I found out that I really liked it for myself. I enjoyed the challenge of quick problem solving, and I was a very fast learner. Being a sound engineer is a very unique job for a 15-year-old to have. I was in charge of setting up the sound system, running sound the entire service, and scheduling sound volunteers for when I wasn't able to make it. This helped me learn a very unique skill that not many people have: how to run a soundboard and mix sound for live music. This is something that I think stood out on my application because it was so unique, and I don't think that you should be afraid of volunteering yourself for things that seem very obscure. Opportunities like this exist because in communities like a church or other communities that need constant volunteers, there are always openings and not enough people to do the jobs they need. Another way that I was involved was I volunteered for a missions trip to Haiti. This gave me so many volunteer hours and helped me see a whole different part of the world that I never thought I would experience. This also opened the door for me to be part of the missions team committee. The missions team committee was responsible for allocating the missions budget to different organizations. We allocated it to neighborhood organizations trying to improve their neighborhoods, and we allocated it to places abroad that were trying to improve their citizens' lives. I was the only teenager on this committee. The opportunity opened up to me after I volunteered on the Haiti trip. Oftentimes, volunteering yourself for random things will open doors for later volunteering or later opportunities. All three of these opportunities, being a sound engineer, going on the Haiti mission trip, and being part of the missions team committee, which is normally reserved only for adults, were very unique opportunities that added a lot to my application. Okay, so now that you know all the ways that I found myself being involved in my community, I want to talk about how I decided to use this in my application. So there are two main parts of your application: your essays and what you choose to put in the activities section of your Common App. So first of all, I decided to think about the activities that had been most influential to me. As I mentioned before, probably the most influential was my time at the Nettie Bailey Student Achievement Program, because that's what made me want to pursue my major. When it came to my other activities, there were some that I didn't find as influential as that, so I made sure to put them towards the bottom of my activities section and didn't write essays about them because I knew I wouldn't have as much to say. When you're choosing the activity you want to write essays about, you should think about A, the ones that you have the most passion for, and B, the ones that you remember the best. Even if one was very impactful to you, sometimes it will be hard for you to recall the details of it because it was so long ago. In order to make your essays as good as they can be, you need to make sure they have lots of details. This will only be possible if you have a great memory of it and if it was very, very influential to you, because your essay will be infused with more passion. When you're deciding which experiences were most influential, you should take some time for self-reflection so that you can make sure to pick the right ones. You shouldn't be picking based on what you might think other people will want you to say. Your application should be a reflection of you and who you are as a person. If you pick what you decide to write your essays on, or what you rank your activities higher based on what other people might think, then it's not going to be a true reflection of you as a person. So all that to say that I really care about my community, and my community has impacted me so much in what I want to do with my life. I hope that what you take away from this video is that there are so many different ways to define community. It doesn't just have to be your neighborhood or your city like what I focused on. It can also be your school, your dance studio, your sports team, or anything else you want to define as community. There are literally infinite options for you to choose from. It is very important to show that you have love and care towards whatever you define as community, because it shows that you have a passion and it shows you have loyalty. These things are what schools look for because they want you to bring that same sort of energy to their college campuses and liven any communities that they have there.